I wanted to talk to you about a couple, three things. But first of all, I just wanted to get your. I know that the Family Research Council doesn't necessarily speak on international affairs, i.e., what's happening right now between the United States and Syria. But I was curious on your. So you're speaking for yourself and your professional background in the United States Army here. But I wanted to get your thoughts on whether or not you think it would be wise for the U.S. government to intervene, U.S. military to intervene in that civil war there.
Well, first of all, Tim, thank you. And in fact, tonight's radio program, Tony's radio program, will deal with this issue in large measure. I'll be on with Tony as well as hopefully Congressman Frank Wolf to talk about this because it does cross over into our issues actually in a very significant way. Now, my personal view is if the president was going to make a threat by drawing a red line, and what he should have done is immediately he should have directed the military to develop a target set that could be struck on a moment's notice, giving him, an assessment of what the impact would be. And then he should have consulted with key members of Congress to let them know what his intentions were if that red line was crossed. And I think it was a bit of arrogance and naivete to think that just because he's Barack Obama, he could issue a threat like that and people would take it seriously, which they obviously did not. Now, I think that he's gotten himself into a terrible bind. He's hoping that Congress will bail him out. But my personal view is we need to stay out of Syria. There is no good outcome in Syria. I realize that this is a despot we're dealing with, but everybody in that region is a despot. And that ultimately, if we support these rebel forces, we have to understand that they are heavily infiltrated by and controlled by jihadists, Islamists. And in fact, what they will wind up doing is use their influence, use the weapons that we give them, use the power that they have to go against the Christian community, which they're already doing. I just got emails this morning from people in Syria, from people that are associated with other folks in Syria, telling me just how bad the situation is for the Christians. And I've had Christians email me over the weekend saying, please influence the president to back off on this because we're safer under Bashar al-Assad than we would be under these jihadists that will take over and replace him. So, Tim, I guess my answer is I'm very concerned about what the president's talking about doing.
Well, I agree with you, and I think I haven't seen any surveys, but I dare say that a majority of Americans, probably a vast majority of Americans across all political stripes, would say no to this kind of intervention, even cruise missiles being fired into Syria. I just don't think, it's a good idea to get involved in that, unless maybe you could find out where these chemical weapons are and get rid of them and then be done with it. But, Americans are a little weary of getting involved in these, Libya, all these other places that we've been involved in, obviously Afghanistan and Iraq. We're weary with this part of the world, and putting our troops into harm's way I think would be. I don't understand Senator McCain and Senator Graham going to bat for intervention here. Do you understand that?
I do not. And remember that they were also strong advocates of arming the rebels in Libya. They both came online wanting us to arm those rebels there, which we did. And by the way, they're the very same people that turned around and attacked us on September 11th and killed 4 of our diplomats. So the fact that they didn't learn a lesson from that is just beyond me. I think it's appalling.
Talking to retired General Jerry Boykin from the Family Research Council. He served in the United States Army for our country and was a great leader, and has since gone to work now with Tony Perkins and our friends at the Family Research Council. Ray, go ahead, man.
General Boykin, as you look back on your your long Army career and what has happened since your retirement, I'd like to ask you, is it becoming more difficult to be a Christian and be, let us say, bold and clear about your faith? More difficult now than it was 20 or 30 years ago?
This is not the same Army that I served in. Just in the 6 years since I retired, things have changed substantially. I never had a problem living my faith until about 2003 when I got hammered by the media. But by that time, I was a much more high profile. I was a lieutenant general, a 3-star general, working in Washington here when they finally went after me over my faith. But today, you really have to come out of the closet almost to be an outspoken, open Christian in the military today. And things like the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which has resulted in not only tolerating but actually celebrating homosexual lifestyle and same-sex marriage, has put Christians in a very difficult position. And I will tell you, that's why, along with the American Family Association, we've formed a coalition to fight for these young men and women of faith in the military.
Is this a change that is this a Democrat or Republican issue, or is this something that's happened as our culture has changed all around us?
Well, our culture has changed, and remember that the military has always been the bastion of traditional values, bastion of what this nation was founded on. So you can't change society until you change the military. I mean, you've always got the military there to look back and say, what are we supposed to be? What were our traditional values? And so you have to change the military. That's why the military has been targeted, is because there's an effort to change the entire society, and we see that happening.
Well, I know that we, along with you guys, American Family Association, and along with the Family Research Council, we've been highlighting this problem it's intensified over the last year or two, and I'm talking about specifically the way that Christians inside the military are being, I don't know if you want to use targeted or denied their rights, and it's the politically correct crowd who want to shut Christians down in the military, and we've had example after example of this, people, especially in the Air Force, the last year or two. And so now, what can we do, though? I know one last question for you, General. It's hard for people inside the military serving now, active, as they say, to speak out because they might be punished in some way for it. So it's incumbent on us who are outside to speak out on their behalf, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Tim, I think that the most important thing for people to do today is get a message off to their elected representatives to tell them that they want legislation that will make it very clear that the rights of Christians, the rights of people of faith in the military must be protected. John Fleming out of Louisiana has offered the Fleming Amendment to the Defense Appropriations Act, and that's exactly what that's designed to do, and it passed. There's a similar bill in the Senate that is probably going to pass as well. But the average American has got to stay on the email, the telephone, the town halls, letting their representatives know how they feel about this issue, because these young men and women, as you said, they can't fight this. Fundamental to our system of government is civilian control of the military. They're under the authority of the military leadership, and the civilians that, are the secretaries of the services as well as the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
And we need to let the elected representatives know that we demand that their rights be protected under the First Amendment.
You can go to our website, folks. I'm sure you can go to FRC's as well, but the AFA.net website, on the right side, if you go to the front page, the right side of AFA.net, under AFA Hot Topics, you can read some of the examples of what we're talking about here. These are real examples of Christians inside, particularly the Air Force, that have been and we've won a couple of victories there recently. But there's a war going on, no pun intended, there within the some of the armed forces, again, particularly the Air Force, about pushing the gay agenda, namely, and the atheist agenda, and to shut down Christians from speaking out. You can read about that at afa.net. Thank you, General. Appreciate it very much.
Guys, I'm delighted to be with you. Thanks for what you're doing.
All right, appreciate it. You can go to frc.org as well. That's Family Research Council. We're not making this up, folks.